with a pay-per-view match canceled and more. My name is John, and you're watching The Wrestling Report. Mentioning the return promo of CM Punk on AEW Collision, former WCW President Eric Bischoff said on his 83 Weeks podcast, it's so hard to say, I loved it. It was great. I almost swallowed my tongue. No, I absolutely loved it. It had the right balance. Again, you cannot ignore the elephant in the room. We can't pretend the last 6 months didn't happen. If you aggregated every tweet, post, Reddit comment, YouTube clip, whatever, of the scrum and the evisceration of Tony Khan by CM Punk right in front of an audience, you can't pretend that stuff didn't happen. There's a balance there. I think this promo achieved, nothing's perfect in life, but perfect balance of acknowledging, not pretending it didn't happen, but when you acknowledge it in a way, particularly in this case, it was done so well, executed so properly, production-wise, on Punk's part, everything else, the audience will move on to, and they'll reinvest their curiosity or their opinion of what happened 6 months ago into what's going on now. I think this promo achieved, from a narrative perspective, an absolutely flawless, almost 100% balance. Saying this about Collision as a whole, Bischoff added that, I more than enjoyed the show. It completely erased the last 12 months of my opinion of AEW, and I'm going into it with an entirely clean slate. Whoever booked this, whoever was in the room, whoever had the most influence over the formatting and the pacing, don't ever let that person out of your sight. Maybe it was Tony Khan. I don't think so, because I've never seen anything out of AEW come remotely close to the level of near perfection of the AEW Collision formatting. With Olympic gold medalist Gable Steveson making an appearance during NXT, Steve Carrier of Ringside News wrote that Gable Steveson surprised a lot of fans when he showed up on NXT this week. That came as the 2024 Olympic Games are approaching as well. We have been able to confirm that WWE does have plans in place for Gable Steveson. It took long enough, but things are finally in motion for the Olympian. Talking about his upcoming match against Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega told TSN, I really don't understand his beef with Canada. Perhaps it's more Canadian people, and I think every country has some despicable people living within it. Sure, maybe I'm one of them. Perhaps the business has clouded my soul a little bit, darkened my heart. I'm not sure. I'm just here being me. What's most important about all of that is I still believe deep down that I'm probably the best wrestler and best representative on a worldwide scale of professional wrestling. So, love me or not, hate me or not, I'm the benchmark. I know I'm the benchmark, so Will has to step up his game, and he has to show something much different than what he showed at Tokyo Dome, because now we're in Canada, and now this is probably going to be his last chance to win his belt back. If he doesn't, I really have no obligation to go back to Japan either, as much as I'd like to. So they just may lose one of their most prized possessions for an undisclosed amount of time. So it's a very big match for Will. As it was said that the Elite won't be at AEW Dynamite tonight, Ringside News wrote that according to PW Insider, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks are expected to make pre-taped appearances on tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite. The decision to have them appear in pre-taped segments is considered a wise move, given that the show is taking place in Chicago, Illinois, following CM Punk's return to AEW during the premiere episode of Collision this past Saturday. There has been reported animosity between the Elite and CM Punk ever since Punk dragged them during a media scrum following the All Out pay-per-view last September that led to a backstage altercation, and as a result, all four wrestlers have non-disclosure agreements in place. When it comes to how the debut episode of AEW Collision did, WrestleNomics noted that it brought in 816,000 viewers with a 0.3 in the 18 to 49 demographic. PW Insider added that backstage after the show, we are told it was pretty much positive across the board to the first episode, and that the feeling was that it hit the mark in trying to feel different from Dynamite. I actually thought it was one of the best AEW TV presentations in a long time from a live perspective. The main event six-man tag was was noteworthy in that it was the first time Samoa Joe and CM Punk wrestled since 2005, and it had as close to a 2023 feel for an All Japan or Noah style 6-man tag as I can recall in recent memory. It really was something special live. After Raw went off the air, Kevin Owens would cut an emotional promo. Here's the video.
I started wrestling for a promotion right here in Cleveland. I'm coming in right at the end of those 15 years when I was so sick of traveling the world for no money, doing my best to keep going, not really sure if I ever achieve this dream. I was almost done. I was ready to call it a career. But then I found this place in Cleveland, and it truly, honestly, revived my passion for wrestling. And that company was called AEW. And it was run by two guys who I became good friends with. One of them is sitting in the front row. His name is John. And the other one, his name was Chris. And I say it was Chris because unfortunately several years ago, Chris passed away. But let me tell you this, without Chris and his love and passion for this industry, I really don't think I'd be standing in this ring. So John and Chris, thank you. We love you and we miss you. And tonight was for you, man.
With her undergoing surgery to repair her ACL last month, Dakota Kai took to Twitter to give an update on her recovery, writing, "I'm out of my brace and back wearing sweatpants with holes in the knees." During an interview with Heel Squad, Sonya Deville recalled the attempted kidnapping she was victim to back in August of 2020, saying, "There's just so many layers to it. First, of course, it's fight or flight, and you're just in the situation and you deal with the situation. And that night after the incident, I thought I was gonna go back to the house and sleep there because I was stubborn and I was in shock and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know left from right at that point. Then the sun goes down and I'm uncontrollably shaking. And I'm in a hotel room under an alias name because I'm so paranoid that even though he's arrested, he's somehow gonna find me and have the dresser pushed up against the door. I made Mandy slide the dresser in front of the door on the 15th floor of this high rise, and paranoia starts to set in. It's fight or flight. And then it's shock, and I went to an autopilot of what needs to be done. What do we have to do? I don't feel first. I do first, and then I feel later. You do what has to be done, and then you feel later. So I didn't feel the full effect for what had happened for months. I was in full-blown fight or flight. I was living in fight or flight mode for months, maybe years. With it previously said that CM Punk could be facing off against Kenta at Forbidden Door, Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful noted that Kenta and CM Punk are no longer facing each other at NJPW Forbidden Door, at least as this past weekend. Fightful Select has learned that Kenta expressed to NJPW and AEW that he isn't facing CM Punk at the Forbidden Door show, as word started to make way around Collision this past week. As of the first episode of Collision, AEW was considering who CM Punk should face at Forbidden Door, or if he'll even be wrestling on the show. NJPW sources had confirmed to Fightful that Kenta and CM Punk had been planned for the event, but as of this weekend, it wasn't happening. We weren't given a reason as to why, but we're told that by the time Kenta had tweeted, "Kenta versus Punk is never going to happen," that was in response to him actually being out of the match. On his House of Hardcore podcast, Tommy Dreamer revealed that he's been diagnosed with skin cancer for the third time, saying, "I know you're all looking at this and saying, what the hell is so shiny on your head? Are you going to town? Are you having barbed wire matches? Being crazy?" No, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That's skin cancer. That's right, being a Guido all these years has caught up to me. This is the second time, no, the third time I've had skin cancer, and of course, it's on my head, but I'm not a pretty boy anymore, I'm hardcore. Scary when they tell you you have cancer and it's the best form of cancer, but you have to get it removed for this. They're able to cut it out. It's called Mohs surgery. I've had it before. I've had it here on my chest. I've had it on my head, and now I have a bigger one on my head. What you're looking at is the grossness of 42 stitches. I had 23 outside and 19 inside. You don't feel it when they're cutting you. It's weird. They numb your whole head. The weirdness of it is they have to cauterize your stuff, so you could smell your skin burning. The part that I didn't like, you can hear the scalpel cutting open your head, and the worst part is you can hear them when they're putting in the stitches. It's a long task to get that many stitches, but it's in your head. They can numb it. You're not feeling it, but you can hear it. You don't feel it, but you can hear it going into your skin and the tightening of the thread. It's gross. I also learned if they pulled too tight, they have to do each one differently, and they kept on looking straight ahead at me because the tighter you pull, you can raise your eyebrow. Though me walking around with a people's eyebrow, hey man, that could be pretty cool. But it's like giving yourself a bit of a facelift, which I definitely need. But not just on one side, one eyebrow, because the doctor was like, if you pull too tight, your eyebrow is going to be raised. That's kind of why I took myself, many reasons why I took myself off of TV dealing with my mom. I never told my mom. I didn't want her to worry. I've known for about 2 months because of, almost 3, because of the waiting time to get the surgery. I'm just like, man, is this going to be bad? Thankfully, they got it all, and it has all worked out. I don't blame the sun. I do blame lack of sunscreen, having a giant forehead, but most importantly, I do blame tanning beds. I used to go in tanning beds all the time. I could go down a whole other rabbit hole, but I'm not gonna with vaccines and all that stuff because I do think differently, but I'm not going to put that out there on this one. But just because I've had this 10 years ago and all of a sudden it had come back and kind of same thing would happen with my mom, like her blood wasn't clotting. How come all of a sudden that happened? So, I mean, I'm just not a very COVID there will be a whole bunch of other stuff, so that'll happen once you got vaccinated. That'll be a whole other generation from now. But for me, I had to deal with it. I got a new hole in my head. It's not healing the way I did, and just before I went on doing this podcast, which was Thursday, June 15th, I noticed every time I put something on it, something would hurt. It's not supposed to hurt, kind of like a pinch. And this was your pro wrestling news update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see y'all later.